Hi guys, this is Sebastian here from Noble Frugal Studio, and I think I'm just gonna turn this whole how to make an animation series into almost like a little podcast where you guys can watch me work on this project that I've been doing. Now, before we get to the topic of this video, which is where did Castle Dark come from, and the difficulty of animation, we're going to play this for you guys because I finished this third part of Pie Spying. So eventually I'll release this whole animatic. Oh my. Oh no, this doesn't seem to be working. Oh no, there we go. Pie jumping down, climbs into the little dish, and he picks up the fish that we saw from last time. Then he takes the dish out. He's walking with it. Pie looks from underneath him. We see him walking toward the door, and then Pie's little determined face runs out. Then he runs and opens the door, and that's when we segue into the next file I'm going to create right now. So that's pretty much all that I got done while you guys were gone. So we're going to go ahead and make a new file, which is going to be Pie Spy Part 4. And that'll be when he enters the ballroom that we see in the first scene where all the people are talking and before it segues into the kitchen. So we can go ahead and create that. Alright, so new beginnings. Now that we're creating a new file, let me just turn this to gray. It's a little bit blinding with that white. So where did Castle Dark come from? Yeah, Castle Dark came from an aesthetic that was in my mind for a long time, actually, before I even picked up 2D animation. I think this was during the time, actually even before the time I got into 3D animation, because at first, due to my abilities, you know, and the things available in the market, there really was no 2D animation software before OpenTunes that was completely free. So there was no there's no way, no method for me to express my love for 2D animation. And so when this game, which was in 3D, if you guys remember it, called Epic Mickey came out, I thought that was probably the coolest looking game I could have ever, you know, in my life. And that was a long time ago. Now that I think about it, even before I got into 3D animation, way before that, I started using Blender before for my first kinds of animation. This is going to be the background layer. What am I doing? Oh, naming this BGSK1. And so, yeah, Epic Mickey was probably the coolest game because it mixed that rubber hose cartoon style with you know, darkness. And what you'll know is a theme in stories that I like to make and, you know, write. Sometimes I do like to write stories. Is that I love the theme of darkness. Something like the theme of evil and stuff like that. Just like, you know, in Kingdom Hearts, the Heartless. That kind of rhymes with darkness, but that's not the point. I do like the concept of the Heartless because they're just like little tiny dark things, and I guess that aesthetic has always entertained me until around last year when I actually had the idea for Pie. Now, as I think I've said before, that Pie is based off of Disney's favorite mouse, Mickey Mouse. He's based off of Mickey Mouse. Yes, I admit it. Yeah, he's based off of Mickey Mouse, and I'm probably gonna pull up and show you guys the original drawings of Pie. So pretty crazy. Yeah, he used to have like lion hands, and he used to have there was a point where I was going to give him wings, but actually no, it wasn't wings. I think he just had like his ears were all flared up. And yeah, so the original drawings, as you guys can see by all the videos I'm putting out, Pie has significantly changed, at least to my point of view, since I have started and since I first thought of him. So yeah, so the original version of Castle Dark, I used a tip that I learned from Mark Crilly, which was to, when you're making a story, to make it almost a fan fiction, and then slowly change everything until it becomes an original piece of work. And that's almost an invaluable tip. It's very just straightforward, and it makes a lot of sense because, I mean, if you can already make something so creative off of a world that's already established, if you can just slowly change it until it's your world, then, I mean, it kind of is your content, you know? And writing books and art and animation especially has been built off of each other, technically stealing for and it's all its history. Stories come off of other stories all the time, and all those stories come off of life, which is kind of cool to think about. So yeah, the original Castle Dark, Mickey was actually Mickey was actually going to be the bad guy in the original Castle Dark. He started out as Mickey was just the bad guy of Castle Dark. He had a black robe, similar to his robe in Fantasia, but black and more menacing. And then Mickey turned into this gray pig with lion hands named Vermin. And Vermin was going to be the antagonist of Castle Dark. I think Vermin and Pie at that time were kind of the same person. I hadn't thought, maybe sometimes I thought that Vermin would be the antagonist, maybe he would be the protagonist. But also what I had thought is that the castle in Castle Dark would have something that the antagonist Vermin would have riding on it would be the Wandering Head, similar to the Wandering Boat. Maybe that's where the Wandering Boat actually came from. I can't remember which one came first. So I'm trying to find a way to get Pie to open this door and make it look okay. Hold on. Standing like that. Maybe I should make him creep open the door. Yeah, that's what I'll do. This is kind of opening the door straightforward. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yeah, so Vermin was the Wandering Head and something like that. And yeah, so that was the original Castle Dark. And it was going to be like a Pie goes into Castle Dark and he has to like follow he meets Vermin at the front or something like that, and he has to like follow the Wandering Head. A lot of the things that were erased out of Castle Dark were because I couldn't really find a motive as to why these monsters or these antagonists would want to like hurt Pie and what the actual goal is. I'm actually struggling with what the goal is right now. I know the ultimate goal for Pie is to get back home to save his mother. If you guys, I don't know if I've ever actually been over the story of Castle Dark, but one of these days I'll get to it. Maybe I'll even get to it in this video. But yeah, his ultimate goal is to get back home to his mom so that he can be happy again. So I had a little bit of a writer's block at the first outset of making this series, and that's part of the reason that I couldn't even finish it close to January, the goal that I had set for myself. And that was, as an animator, that was not a great feeling. It makes you feel like, oh, I just set a goal, but it doesn't mean much because if you don't follow it. Howard Wimhurst has a good point on how when someone else sets a goal on you, it means something a little bit different. Like it makes it like, oh, it makes the restriction even, more strict, because say someone says you have to draw a bouncing ball that has a tail. If you give them a bouncing ball, they're just like, this is not what I asked for. So you face that, I guess, kind of rejection that you don't want. So, but when it's yourself and you can't do the tail, it's all like, oh, well, I'll do it another time. And when, and it's just, when someone else does it for you, you're like, oh, you're going to show this person up. It's not, I don't think that's what he was trying to get at, but that's, I guess, the way that I interpreted it. Yeah, but, yeah, so Castle Dark was pretty, at first it was pretty, just an aesthetic, as most stories start out, as some really great stories start out, as just an idea, just an aesthetic, just a, thing in my sketchbook. Maybe I'll even take pictures and I'll show you guys what it looked like at first. I'm a little bit embarrassed because my skills have improved a lot since then, but, no pain, no gain. I can't do that, wrong layer. So yeah, that aesthetic of the dark cartoon has been in my head a long time and has really lived before the birth of Castle Dark. But the execution of it is Castle Dark because as you guys know before, I do have another story that I wanted to create first. However, I wanted to test the waters with Castle Dark to see how writing an animation series on YouTube would be. And also, I'm using Castle Dark to improve my skills to make that story that I'm looking forward to the best that it can be. Now, I'm not going to tell you guys what it is now. Probably later on when this channel grows a little more, I'll reveal it to you guys, and it's gonna be. I really do hope it's going to be fun, because one of the reasons I have trouble coming out with videos is because it's just this whole YouTube thing has been crazy. Um, I never expected to get so much attention on YouTube. The attention that I do have is just absolutely insane. You guys watch almost every single one of my videos. Um, and within hours after I upload a video, I'll tell you guys, when that first happened to me, I was shocked. I was very shocked because I came from a channel where I used to do gaming videos all the time on a game called Spiral Knights. It's still up there. I'm not gonna link it to you guys. I'm not gonna give it to you guys, but oh my goodness, it was a long time ago. You probably end up finding it anyway. Um, I used to do games I used to do videos on the game called Spiral Knights, and um, I didn't get a lot of views all the time. Maybe sometimes I would get like, after a month I would get 10 views, and now after a month I'm getting 400, and that's not even to speak for, but to me that was just like, wow, people are actually watching my videos and like clicking on them, and it's crazy. Um, it's just, yeah, it's crazy. So I already told you guys the origins of Castle Dark, where it comes from. I'll probably show you guys some pictures. Second subject is the difficulty, the sheer difficulty of animation. It's just, oh my goodness, guys. Round of applause to those animators on YouTube. I just don't know how they do it, honestly. I have to say, like, I know you guys feel the same way when you think about how do these animators find all this time to make these animations. Like, you'll see something like Game Grumps, for an example. All these Game Grumps animated, and even the animations that Aaron Hansen makes are very impressive. And I'm just like, how does he find the time to make all these? And even when you think about, oh, well, he must do it as a full-time job, he has a whole gaming channel going for him right now. And imagine how much that has to take out of his time. So where does he find time to make all these amazing animations? And it's just crazy to think about. So, yeah, what I have to say is that I liken the difficulty of animation to giving yourself a haircut. Animation is like taking a haircut, because it's almost impossible to do alone, and it's extremely tedious. That's my analogy. That's what you guys can quote me for in 2018. Yeah, it's just the animation is absolutely nuts. Who would have thought it was a good idea to make a bunch of complicated drawings in a sequence that play so fast that your brain is like, yo, wait, that's moving. It's crazy. And it's so crazy that it just might work, and it did. And it worked on me. The spell of animation was cast upon me, and now I can't do anything else. I must do animation. It's crazy. And that's what's the question with hopes and dreams, with people that are always like, oh, is this just like a passing phase, or will I actually become an animator one day? For me, I'm going to become an animator one day. I don't know about the rest of you, but in my channel description, I made sure to add that this lady shouldn't even be wearing a crown. She's not even the queen. I don't know what I was thinking there. I was just kind of going off of anything. So, yeah, I am so forward with the whole animation thing that I just, this is the only thing that, really, really puts me in that zone where I can just really focus. Of course, I do get distracted all the time while animating. Happens to everyone, but it's just that as a kid, I was always drawing all of the time, making up characters, and I just watched TV. That's all I did as a kid. I was just one of those kids that just watched TV and played video games. And it's just that the fact that I'm getting the opportunity to actually create one of those TV shows and create one of those, if I were a game maker, to create one of those video games, that's insane. I mean, look at where the technology has taken us these days. It's just the fact that you can start anytime you want to as a creator, and that's just insane to me. What, like 10 years ago, I believe, this stuff was, it wasn't available for anybody. You couldn't do this kind of stuff 10 years ago. Maybe you could, but not like for the average person. And now the average person can make a film like Zootopia by themselves. Well, the average person doesn't make a film like Zootopia by themselves, but it's possible. If you use Blender and all the right tools, it's actually possible, and that's the craziest thing that this world has made possible. The evolution of technology has made it possible, and you know, I just gotta say I'm thankful because now I can sit here, ramble on about my ideas in front of a couple hundred people who actually want to hear what I have to say. This platform, YouTube, is also incredible, man. And just think about it. When I was doing the OpenTunes show reel, my OpenTunes show reel, I realized, like, oh my goodness, I haven't even realized it's been an entire year ever since I created the Noble Frugal Studio. Some backstory: I did want to create. I wanted to call it Noble Studio. The Noble Studio was it. That was like, oh man, I want to do this so bad. But I'm actually very glad I called it Noble Frugal Studio. I like it a lot better. It has a better ring to it. Could be just because it's the one I went with. But I mean, honestly, I really do like the name. If I named it Noble Studio, it would just be so boring. Just a noble, like a nobleman studio. And I feel like you want to get the right idea. You want to understand that this is like a animation shop, like animation place. But I mean, it's not that Noble Frugal Studio, which nobody knows what it is any more clear. It's just that it has a better ring to it to me. I like it a lot more. Yeah, so, and Noble and Frugal, they enjoy it too. Yeah, so Noble Studio was going to be the name of it until I decided to be smart and I looked up Noble Studio. And you have all these channels with the name Noble Studios and all that stuff. So I felt that Noble Studio would be so generic that I wouldn't even be considered in the short attention span of the technology users of today, which I am guilty of doing too. I have a short attention span. It really depends on my mood though. If I'm not in a smiley, let's draw all the time mood, my attention span is absolutely zero. But if I am, if I'm in smiley, let's do everything, cool mood, then I'm actually, my attention span actually gets bigger. You guys can leave a comment down below if you actually relate with that, but you know. So yeah, maybe now instead of rambling on to a bunch of stuff that I can just talk about for ages, literally ages, how about I tell you guys the story of Castle Dark after I get a sip of water. Okay, sip done. Castle Dark now. So Castle Dark, it starts when, as you guys can see, a young pig named Pie. I named him Pie. It was in one of my, I think it was in one of my videos I did, one of my older ones. I decided on Pie for a name. Not really sure what made me decide, but I just thought it was right to name him that. So a young pig named Pie, as we see right now, he's right over here. If you guys don't see him, he is poor and he has committed some sort of crime. He's already, this is pre sneaking into the castle. Pie has committed some sort of crime. It's so true that it rhymes. And in order to void that crime, he has to steal the king's crown in order to gain rulership. And now that's not an easy task, if you were wondering. As you can see, he's kind of had this whole thing thought out by popping out of a bread basket and sneaking in through the kitchen. Now, it's not going to be like Mission Impossible high stakes, because I want this to be still light and funny. Because in order for me to establish that dark cartoon mood, I have to have the contrast of the light, slapstick kind of rubber hose kind of humor. And so that's what I want to establish first. no, it wasn't necessarily planned. No, I didn't do a lot of this on purpose. But that's the kind of the way it worked out. So don't judge me. um, yeah. So he, spoiler alert, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, he doesn't end up stealing the crown. He fails because he bribes a guard to get in, I believe, and then the guard tricks him, and then he gets caught. So Pi lives at home with him. It's just him and his mom, and they're very poor. And he committed the first crime, which I'll probably establish in another flashback shot sometime or another. I don't have to rush too much. Um, he committed because they're poor and, poverty and stuff. It's terrible, no food. What are we gonna do? So Pi is brought up to the king for trying to steal his crown, and he is sentenced to something called the Wandering Boat. And the Wandering Boat is a boat that just sends you on the ocean, chained to a wooden boat, and the ocean basically decides your fate. That's what the Wandering Boat is. It's basically one of the worst punishments you can get ever. Whether you drown, whether you live, is all up to the ocean. And then, as you guys probably would have guessed, guess where our boy Pi ends up. He ends up at a dark, creepy castle in the middle of a storm called Castle Dark. And that's where the whole Castle Dark thing comes from. He ends up at a castle called Castle Dark, and he has to survive, basically. He has to get home to his mom, because while he was sentenced to the Wandering Boat, his mom was sentenced to death in, 7, I believe, days. I just put 7 because, it doesn't really matter how much days. It really matters what Pi does at Castle Dark. So I'm probably going to change the number wishy-washy. I don't really know what to make it. Whether it's 7 or 14 or 3, really depends. So yeah, she's sentenced to death in however many days, and Pi has that many days to save her. Like, oh no, what would you do if your mom was about to get slaughtered by King Leopold? And then the king's name is Charlemagne is the king's name, King Charlemagne. So Pi's mom's about to get executed, and Pi has to get home from this mysterious castle. Also, he has to survive, no doubt. He has to actually figure out what the castle's all about. If you guys are wondering, that little blank thing is the autosave. Saves your butt when you're in the middle of a project using raster brushes and the OpenTunes just crashes. So yeah, he has to find a way to survive and return home to save his mother, which he doesn't even have a plan to do anyway. So and that's the whole premise of Castle Dark, is that of course, for story writing purposes, the final days end up ending, and Pi doesn't get there in time. But it only makes you think that his mom is dead. Like, whoa, who would have thought? And then Pi, in a rage, ends up retaliating. So, what the Castle Dark's all about is that Castle Dark has a dragon named Clarissa in the basement, and I know that's pretty weird. The Clarissa name might shake too, thinking it might be too, normal. It's like, oh hey Clarissa. No, Clarissa's a pig-eating dragon. Why would you say hi to a pig-eating dragon? But so that makes shake too. And so what happens is that throughout Pi's adventure in Castle Dark, Clarissa's trying to eat his head off, and he has to keep escaping until Clarissa gets him in a corner, and Pi has no escape. His mom has just been supposedly executed, and he has nothing he can do. But there's still something that lives in him, in Pi, that hope from being poor that he has, that he might live one other day, that he'd do anything to live another day. And that's where Pi adopts his secret powers, which I'll probably talk about in another video. So yeah, that's the premise of Castle Dark. Castle Dark came from that, just kind of do a little overview of what we learned today. No, what I just blabbered on about today, really. Um, the origin of Castle Dark comes from that epic Mickey kind of aesthetic of cartooning that I just absolutely adore. It's like just darkness in cartoon. That's crazy. I love it because it's the contrast of like a happy, jolly animation style and like a dark, really evil sort of setting, and that just makes me feel really cool. So I hope to do more of these in the future. Um, this is what this series is probably going to head to, since if I ever get a real topic, then I'll cover it. But for the most part, I want this to be like you guys can learn more about Castle Dark, more about the channel, everything if you watch how to make an animation series. Now that's going to be the end of this video. If you guys like this video, then leave a like, and I have tons more like this video in our playlist of how to make an animation series, so be sure to click the card up above. And if you guys want more animation, then just leave a comment. You can say anything, literally just go like, hey Sebastian, you can animate a guy running down a street getting hit by a car. I'll probably try to tone it down so it doesn't look so appalling and violent and terrible. But I'll probably consider doing that because I'm considering doing animation videos, whereas I have a video where I animate something. Pretty self-explanatory. And you guys can leave a comment on what you guys would like me to animate. So please be sure to do that. It would help me out a lot. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.